You know, he's really he's shameless in intellectual argument. He's absolutely without character, a moral foundation, or even intellectual substance.
He would just act on and that's what you need to do. It's the second you give it like, oh, but what if that's when you're fucked? That's when the terrorists got you.
Yeah. And Marky Mark back then would have been, he would have been in good shape. But he's still in good shape, I think. But like, he would have been in good shape back then. So, who knows?
What if it did though? That would just be even more hilarious.
Like if he was there and it still happened.
Dude, it's like, this is a really bad situation, but luckily Mark Wahlberg is there. So I think we're going to be okay. And then he's just immediately like beheaded. And they're like, well.
They're like, all right, Marky Mark's on the plane. Didn't count on that. Let's just take him out first.
That's a good,
what's going on.
Yeah, that's a good misdirection if you're going to do like an alternate history like book or something. Like, what if Marky Mark was on the plane? And that's the like premise of the book, but he gets killed and then it's just some schmo who like saves the day or something, and that's the alternate history. That'd be cool.
It's like Murray Feinberg or something saves the day.
Yeah, that would be great. No, I would definitely read that. I'm taking all ideas for books, by the way. So it doesn't matter how dumb.
I know. I've heard you've. Well, I don't think I came up with it, but I was really enthusiastic about like a throwaway comment about the budget hitman thing. I was like, and I remember spamming you with messages going like, he could do this and that, and like, that's such a great idea.
Kelby are doing it,
and I'm really glad
it is a great idea.
It. Yeah.
And that's the one where, so I work with a bunch of black dudes, right? And I'll tell them my book ideas. And so I was telling them the idea I had for Ronin Trash. And so I say, it's about a group of 4 Ronin. And they're like, all right. Then they're in the woods.
Because they're black, they know what a Ronin is. So.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
And so they come across this village that is being ruled over by an evil lord. And they're like, okay. And the evil lord is a demon. And they're like, whew, all right, yeah. And I'm like, and the twist is that the main characters are all white trash dudes. They're just like the cast of King of the Hill. And then they're like, oh, you had us in the first half, but no, that's not good. And so I'm using them as this like barometer. I'm like, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board with that one. It sounded funny to me, but when I told them about Budget Hitman, and they're like, yeah, that's gas. Like just write that one.
Yeah.
So I have there, although my buddy did go watch the Chris Pratt movie Mercy recently, and he's like, that shit was fire. You got to write something like that. I was like, dude, I'm not writing Chris Pratt AI shit.
Yeah. What even is that? Like,
yeah,
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's like Minority Report, but it's with an AI. And so Chris Pratt is accused of like a future murder, I think, by an AI.
Okay.
It's literally Minority Report. But yeah, no, I think it's important to have normie friends that like you're annoying with them and like you bounce ideas off of them and shit. Because I could tell, like, I told a couple of my weirdo friends the Ronin Trash idea, and they were like, that's hilarious, do that. But I mean, they're weird. And I'm like, I need a normal person that I can talk to who's like, would you, if this was a movie, would you stop and check it out on Netflix or whatever? Yeah. And I don't think a lot of us do that because we don't have normal friends.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. By the way, welcome back to the Get In Split podcast. We've got J David Osborne, who's probably been on here more than any other guest, I would assume. And that's mostly because of the Gene Wolfe things, I think. Maybe Kelby's got you around the same number of appearances. But anyway, so yeah, we're here to talk about Berserker Club and various other things. I never have notes when JDO comes on because we're just chatting. But
my notes is like a list of like cocktail name ideas.
from the
So I've got to
book.
start a new page, actually. Right.
Yeah, putting the cock in cocktail.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I've always I keep meaning to ask you, and I don't think I ever have, like whether recording or off mic or whatever. I want to know what it's like having a spouse, because your wife is a writer as well. And I actually think that the optimal partner for a writer is someone who kind of doesn't give a fuck and is more of a normie. So what's it
Mhm.
like having a writer for a wife?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We both, the thing is that it's kind of like needing to have your periods synced up because you know how writing goes. There's the phase of writing where you're circling an idea, and then the phase where you're kind of drafting an idea and but then there's the parts where you're really focused. And we both really kind of protect that time. And it can be difficult to coordinate, but we also, I mean, we celebrated our 19th anniversary of like a couple weeks
Congratulations.
ago. Thank you. And so we know each other really well, and we don't have to say very many words. We're kind of already an old couple.
Mhm.
And so I can kind of tell when she has, kind of sequestered herself where I am now in the office and she's typing. I kind of back off. I take the kid, we play some video games, we go outside. And she's really good about that kind of stuff too. Like when it's podcasting time, she talks shit every time. She's like, "Oh, you're gonna go podcast with your friends?" But she gives me that space when I'm writing. She gives me that space, and it's kind of cool because, like, we went to go get some bulgogi today, and we were talking about writing and books, and I was like shooting her ideas because I'm working on the draft for her new book, editing it, and it's cool. Like when you're married for long enough, I think you have like a lot of shorthand, and it's more just like it's like having a bud at
Mhm.
times who you love very much, obviously, right? Um,
And want to
but
have sex with.
right, exactly, like a friend you want to have sex with. Um, I think what you're more thinking of is like, yeah, if it was two committed writers who just met,
Hmm.
that that might be tough because we weren't doing this when we were 18,
Hmm.
like we were just kind
Hmm.
of getting started. But I mean, we grew into it together. We went to all the same conventions and met all the same people. And so I think it works for us specifically, but I think the underlying part of the question of, like, could there be challenges? I could definitely see people being challenged, especially if they've been single for quite some time and now
Hmm.
two writers have gotten together. I've watched it happen, and in very few cases does it work out, but it works out sometimes.
Yeah, there's a kind
I
of.
imagine,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'd imagine it could be bad if one was particularly successful and the other wasn't. Like if one was like
Oh, I've
superstar and the
seen
other,
that. I've
yeah,
seen that. Yeah.
that could be tricky.
It could be, but I would happily be a sugar baby. I
Yeah.
have no problems with that whatsoever. She has made some very serious inroads in ways that I haven't. Um, and I cheer her on the whole way because I'm like, get the bag, if you can take that, if you can bring daddy home and daddy can be a kept man, I'm down for it. But I think I think that also comes down to like if you have that on your spirit in general, right? If you're jealous of your significant other for being super successful, then you're going to be a prick when your friend pops off, you
Hmm.
know?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't have that. I don't
Hmm.
have that at all. I just don't like to see my enemies succeed. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
friends and loved ones, like, yeah, do as good as you want to do. And
Hmm.
by the way, if she was like on Oprah and shit, I'd be like, hey, mention my book when you go out there, dude. Like, just say, just say something.
Uh, I like the point you made about shorthand too. Like, I mean, that's kind of in a being married for a long time, but also if you're kind of writers, you kind of understand like the time, the space and the time thing, which can be a challenge, I guess, if the other person isn't. But I kind of just like that they don't really understand it. Like it's a
Hmm.
great it's a great like just little thing for you to have yourself. And speaking of the podcast as well, when Matt was down, Darren and his fiance were like just thick as thieves, like and clowning on us for going on podcast in the exact same way that you were
Yeah.
describing there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going on your podcast, you know, like
Your
Yeah.
little podcast.
It's like I booked 2 podcasts, 2 weekends in a row. It's like, what? Oh, are you gonna be? I'm like, it's literally 2 hours in the morning, and then we get the whole weekend. It's like every time, and it's just like,
Yeah.
chill out. Like, just go shopping or something.
No,
Yeah.
but it is, I mean, like it is good to have normie friends. I
Mhm.
talked to my buddies at work. Like my boss basically has been my friend since high school. I'm a Nepo baby for that job, right?
Hell yeah.
And hang on one second. He's kind of all right. My kid was screaming. He's good.
Mm.
But he will say things to the effect of, "Man, writers must really hate money," because I'll tell him stories about how writers are, and it will just completely blow his mind. I'll be like, "Well, some writers kind of don't want." Like they don't want this huge audience because they want to be able to tell these sort of plotless, meandering. And he's like, but like in his mind, it doesn't make sense to spend time creating something if you can't sell it.
Mm.
And I think that's infected me a little bit, right? I'm not totally over there, right? Like I can still enjoy experimental fiction, but I kind of see his point. It's like, what are you just kind of jerking off and then showing it to people? It's a little weird. It's a little
Mm.
weird to have like, to the people who say like, I just do everything 100% for me. I'm like, and yet
Mm.
I'm listening to you on a podcast talk
Yeah.
about your work, right? Um, so anyway, yeah, writers, go get normal friends and then talk to them about your books. Don't be shy,
Yeah.
and you'll get some tough love because they don't give a fuck. Like they're not getting anything out of being nice to you for no reason about your book.
Exactly. Like no one cares. No one's impressed.
Mm-mm.
It's not like we're not in Great Gatsby times. But even then, I don't think people were impressed. So, you know,
I
um,
think it's always been a myth that
mm,
I think Hollywood has portrayed of like, the writer.
mm,
It's never been true. We've
yeah,
always been dorks.
yeah, and that's been pushed forward by writers writing scripts
Mhm.
with the writer. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. Anyway, after that initial digression, let's talk about your newest book, Berserker Club. What's So where did this come from? I actually already know, but for our listeners, the origin story of this is quite interesting. So take us through it.
Sure. Um, I was hit up by a guy called Spencer Desmond who works with Low Res Wonder Bread on his movies. Um, and he wanted to shoot basically the idea was for it to be Low Res's next movie after Mass State Lottery. And so I went and I had a few things on my mind. I had just watched Toshiaki Toyoda's Monsters Club, which is about like a Japanese Ted Kaczynski type guy in a cabin who encounters this like weird demon that's covered in shaving cream. It looks really weird. And I was like, "Oh, what if that, but it was cum," right? And then so I had this idea, so I wrote this story. I had also recently watched Standoff at Sparrow Creek, so I like this idea of a militia. Like, you basically get kind of like a bottle episode where you have one location and you can just have guy like almost like a play. And then all the themes that I typically write about, like brotherhood betrayal and, tough guys being tough and dick jokes, et cetera, they all made their way into the script. And I wrote it and it had all this gore and all these effects, and I sent it to Low Res and Spencer, and they were like, "Yeah, no, like we can't do this. We have to think of like a different idea." And so I said, "Okay," and I kind of put it away. But I wrote that script so fast, dude. I wrote that script in like 3 days. I was on fire because I really thought this idea was super cool. There's a part at the end that's not in the book, but like the main character basically drinks the serum and becomes like a Jesus monster and shoots like blood out of stigmata. That was like the big like ending. And I was like, that would kill in a movie. right? I took it out of the book because it doesn't like really fit with where it ended up going. But anyway, it sat there for years, like a couple years, I think. No, 1 year. And then I got finished with God's Fair No Better, and I really want to be able to keep a pace going of these kind of shorter novels. And I can get into why that is. I think it's the smartest thing to do. But I was like, okay, what can I do that's kind of easy? And I already had this script. So I was like, okay, let me just adapt this script into a book. And it ended up being there's a lot of stuff that's the same, but it ended up being wildly different. But it was cool because I had this outline basically already. Like I had all the characters, I knew what the characters were doing. I had the main, kind of gears spinning. And I said that I liked it so much that I would probably write scripts going forward in the future as my first draft. That so far hasn't been the case, but it's a really good first draft option because you're just getting images and dialogue down. I mean, I think the reason why I've never liked outlines is because they're ugly. And I think scripts are beautiful. So if you can kind of make this beautiful hourglass of dialogue and, like little set decorations, right? It's sexy. I think it's a great way. And like I said, I wrote that script in like 3 days. It's full of typos and right. It's a total draft, but there's something about just being in final draft that I don't know, man, just really set me on fire and got me writing this bitch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like I like the sound of that too because, I used to write a lot of plays and I can write dialogue extremely fast. So like I like the sound of that. I haven't tried it quite yet. But it's a cool way to think about doing your first draft because I'm always very dialogue heavy. Like probably because I never shut the fuck up and so characters never shut the fuck up either. So
Oh, same thing. Yeah, same. That's why we do podcasts. Because we talk a lot. But no, I think there's a couple things going on too, is that when you're writing in final draft, the sense of progress is so much quicker too, because the pages are just flying by. And you're sitting there typing, you're like, holy shit, I just wrote 20 pages. It's a like a encouragement to continue, basically. Whereas if you're writing on Microsoft Word, God forbid you're doing it single space, but even double space, you get to like the end of a writing session, you're like, I did a page and a half. Cool. It just doesn't feel as cool, you know? And there's something too about being able to put more, you have the skeleton and then you start putting like muscle on and, you put the eyeballs in and the butt cheeks and everything. And it really starts to come together, I think, in an interesting way.
Oh, that reminds me that I used to be like all boys into dinosaurs when I was a kid. And there used to be like this monthly dinosaur magazine where you would get a piece of like a Tyrannosaurus Rex or something and you would collect it and it would have the bones which glowed in the dark. And then you would get more and you would like put the skin on and everything like that. It just reminds me of that. That's just the image I got.
Those are the magazines though were so frustrating because the first issue would be like $1.95 and then every issue would be getting more expensive.
Yeah.
So they're like $25 an issue. And your parents are like, yeah, sorry, we're stopping at issue 4. Like, can't afford this shit. I got fucking the tail of a dinosaur. That's all I've got. That sucks.
This is triggering you.
It's like with the Power Rangers. I remember I wanted they're like, you can pick something up to this price from the toy store for your birthday. And then I picked this thing and it was like basically every part of the Power Ranger, like Megabot, whatever, except for the dragon that made the like body of it. So I just had the fucking saber-tooth tiger or whatever, that was the legs and the arm pieces. And they would like transform into between things. But then it was just like, it just came with this stand to sit them all on. But I didn't have the like heart, the main like dragon thing to like actually put the shoes and everything on. And it was so frustrating, like never being able to like build this full thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, that derailed the conversation. Oh.
No, it's good, man.
No, it's good. We've all got those.
I'm trying to think of something like that for me. I don't really know. I don't think we had anything like that, but it sounds dope. And it's fucked up though that they were literally doing a scam on children, basically. Because some kids were like not leaving there. I have a child. The other day, my son decided that he wanted a PlayStation controller that looks like a donut. I don't know how he got the idea. I don't know if he saw an ad for it or something. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I Googled PlayStation controller that looks like a donut, and that shit exists, but it's $200.
Holy
And
shit.
so I told him, I said, buddy, that's too much money. He has no concept. He has no idea what that means. And he's like, so we can get it like next week? And I said, no, we can't get it at all because it's $200 for a donut controller. And he's like, so Santa Claus will get it for me. I said, fucking maybe. That might be the only thing Santa Claus gets you if that's really what you want. But the point is, he asked me that 100 times. I would come home from work. It wasn't, Daddy, oh my God, I miss you. We love you. So he would come home. He'd be like, have you thought about the donut controller?
Did it look really cool though? Did it look really cool?
It did look cool. Yeah.
Doesn't sound good though. Like the PlayStation controller is so hand fitting. Like a donut just would be like stepping backwards, you know.
Well, it's a controller, but like it just looks like the top part of it is the pink glaze with sprinkles, and then the handles are brown.
Oh, okay.
Right? So it's still the shape of a controller. It's just like a wrap. A donut
Right.
wrap.
Aren't like PlayStation 5 controllers like nearly $200 normally anyway?
They're not that bad. So I had to get a new one. I got a black one for about $50. So not too bad. But as soon as you get into the custom stuff, there's some really cool ones though. If I had a stupid amount of money and I just wanted to be silly, there's like a lot of Dark Knight Joker ones that say like, why so serious? And ha 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 ha. And they have like the Heath Ledger graffiti thing. Dude, I would 100% have those just because it would please me. Every time I look down, I would chuckle at that. Have you guys ever thought about people who really got into the Joker and how that for them was like a really serious thing? Those are the scariest people on planet Earth because I know people like that. Those, you want to laugh at them because they think like they wear the angry Tweety Bird shirts or the Joker. And you think like, oh, you're goofy, you're silly, like you have no self-awareness. Those are the people who will kill you, like because they have no self-awareness. So ironically, the people you want to laugh at for like, the memes of Bugs Bunny in like the Antonio Banderas desperado pose, where he's like, Lord help me, I had to do it to him or whatever. Those are the actual criminals and murderers.
Yeah.
You guys ever think about that?
Sometimes. Maybe.
I think about the like Harley Quinn, like female Joker type, and how I just like don't get that. I'm always like, you'd look way hotter if you took all that fucking clown makeup off. And they look annoying as shit. So I think about it in that context.
But you know that shit's yanking though, for sure.
Oh yeah. No, it'd be worth it for sure.
Right.
So yeah. Getting back to Berserker. Yeah, I'm trying to keep it like sort of orderly, much like Batman in his never-ending battle against the Joker. Yeah, so I wanted to ask about how you there's yarn in this. So there was yarn in Gods Fear No Better. Is this are we moving into a JDO cinematic universe situation, or is it like a Lovecraftian sort of mythos thing going on? Or how are you imagining this?
I really like that question. That's cool. I think yes, in a way. I like doing Easter eggs and doing little secret in-jokes in my books. So yes. But I also I've become more and more obsessed with the idea of story as a living thing as I've written these books. And so writing God's Fear No Better was very exploratory, right, into this idea. I would call it yarn because I read Tyson Yunkaporta's Sand Talk, and I just liked it. He's an Australian dude, an Aboriginal fella, and he would always talk about yarning with people, conversing with them. I figured I would explain to the Australians what what yarn means. But for anybody listening
You're
who's not
yarn-splaining.
Australian,
Yeah, yeah.
yarn splaining, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But books like that, and books like Animistic by Gordon White, another Australian, um, they all began to kind of influence the way that I look at what it is that I do. And I really like to give myself an inflated sense of self-importance. And so writers like Grant Morrison is kind of the OG of this chaos magician, where, a lot of his like Animal Man, when he did that, the big meta thing at the end of Animal Man was that Animal Man could see you. And he realized he was a character in a comic book. That's my catnip. I love that shit. When I actually, in a fit of like kind of Chinese designer drug psychosis, once like started to believe that characters were alive, and that so embarrassing. I posted on Facebook that it was immoral to kill your characters in books because they were living things. That was when I was like deep in the depths. But even so, back in a slightly more sober frame of mind, I'm fascinated by the idea of what actually stories and narrative are. And I think that in an age of mass consumed entertainment, we forget that these are like creepy, mystical, almost occult things that we're doing. I wrote some shit, you guys read it, and there was stuff going on in your head while you were reading. It's weird. And I'm trying to think back to when, like, because all reading used to be done out loud. And the dude who first figured out how to read quietly, they thought that motherfucker had magic powers. Like, what the fuck is he doing? Like, he'd just look at it and be able to say what was on there. And they're like, we don't realize how recent this technology, we take for granted basically what it's doing. So on the one hand, to answer your question, absolutely, it'll probably get annoying, but every story that I do is in some way going to be about story itself and how that interacts with the characters or with us in real life. But the kind of broader scope is that it might be right now kind of the central question that I'm interested in, no matter what genre or like story I'm telling at the time. It just creeps its way in.
What, in terms of like, this is sort of like a annoying kind of Reddit question, but in terms of like yarns and, story as a kind of living sort of mystical thing that you've got in these books, is it the same thing? So is like the same thing in God's Fair No Better? Is it the same, like, I don't know, like...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the idea, like the little Easter egg
it's not variations on a theme. It's like it's the same thing in both.
It's the same
worlds,
thing,
I guess.
Yeah. There's one callback I did where I think one of the monsters gets hit and there's like little worms inside of it. Then that's the yarn. But the idea is that this character Whitmer invented yarn essentially, and it was this affront to the spirits of the woods and nature itself. And over time, I don't know, 200-300 years later, it's become kind of a designer thing where you can essentially inject yourself with story and get cool robot arms or whatever, but also, get some kind of psychosis out of it as well. So the answer to the Reddit one is 100%. Like this is the yarn's origin story, basically.
Why psychosis though? Do you think stories derange us?
Yeah, I think so. I think especially when they are kind of independent. So I would think that when we're telling stories, we're taking things from our surroundings, but mostly story comes from somewhere inside of us, right? Like we're an antenna, sure, but I actually think Andrew Edwards has like a great example of like in Crowbar, he talks about how like every human being I pictured it almost as like a bubble around them where their existence is so that a soul can be built, right? And so the angels and demons that appear to people are real insofar as they're inside of that bubble, like both kind of projected out from the person and then doing externally the work that they're doing internally. It's even weirder when you read it in the book, but that's my interpretation of it, right? And I love it. But So I think that when it's the same as injecting yourself with silicone for muscles, right? You kind of look stupid versus actually working for it and being disciplined. And I think that this is just in this universe, at least, they found out that if you can turn story into a liquid drug that then begins to tell itself, like, hey, you are this thing or you are this way, it's necessarily going to lead to the same kind of psychosis you would get if it's like Brazilian butt lift rot. Have you seen those videos? Like where
I haven't
people get
seen
the butt
videos, but
lift?
I've heard
I've
about it.
heard
Yeah.
tell of
It's
it, yeah.
it's horrific. So another thing about working with these guys is their Instagrams are like all dark web shit. People getting and they're like, "Hey David, look at this." But like the butt lift stuff can be pretty fucking horrific. And I think that's just because there's some kind of law in the universe that you're kind of supposed to do things yourself. And if you try to cheat, there's
Mm,
always a price. There's always a price to
yeah.
cheating. And this is kind of cheating with stories, right?
Mm.
So, but yeah, you've given me a lot to think about.
Mm.
Maybe in Ronin Trash, I'll think about that some more.
So when you were saying about like the Joker type people, are they like all yarned up and going through like their own psychosis because they're like injecting this like story someone else came up with to make themselves the Joker?
I didn't think about that, but I fucking love it. That's brilliant. Yeah, of course, right? Like, but we all know people like that. Like, we
Mm.
all know people who act like they're in a movie,
Mm,
and it's cringe and weird. We know what they're doing. It doesn't have any bearing on the seriousness of what they're talking about. I used to have a buddy who, looking back, he had to have been autistic, but he was like really into, like the Dropkick Murphys and
oh yeah.
like The Departed
Worst
and shit
band
like that.
ever.
Right. And we're in Oklahoma, but he would affect that he would wear like the little cap and
Not
like
the
the leather
flat hat.
jacket. Yeah, yeah. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
no, no, I hate that hat so much.
Right. And so so guys like that, God love them, are people who have, right? They've taken this, or like, the Cherokee princesses. Like everybody knows that that's cringe and it's cringe for a reason because you're taking the story and just kind of, hey, this, now this is me. It has to come from somewhere inside, right?
Well, the
Fashion
Japs are
is
the only
cool.
ones that can do it. They can like go to a
Sure.
shop and buy just like a complete punk outfit, like walk in dressed in like a t-shirt
Uh-huh.
and then come out just like all bondage gear and like shit. And it's sort of for whatever reason you're not like that's lame. Just when they're Japanese, I'm kind of like I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it's because they're not
Yeah.
born with souls, dude.
Yeah, all right.
Is
Get
it
I
that
mean,
shit nuked out of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Is it something to, is the derangement or the weirdness of it or the spiritual poverty of it something to do with um everyone kind of the way that you make sense of your life is usually you look at it like a narrative, right? Like in
Sure.
so
Yeah.
much of society is, like the beginning, middle, and end, essentially. Like there's middle age, which is this vast stretch of your life, and which is in the middle, So that's Act Two, right? And then Act Three is when you get older, die, basically. In the broadest strokes of the concept. Maybe it's that people who do that, like become the Joker, inject themselves with the story or the yarn of Joker, are not kind of being agents in their own story. It's like they're trying to borrow the agency from some other story and like projecting it into their own. And that's where the kind of corruption happens. Maybe it's something to do with that.
I really like that you use the word agency there because that is how I conceive of, I mean, even in this book, um, I do conceive of agency as the most important characteristic of any character, right? And I think in God's Fear No Better, that's what all those characters are kind of learning as that book goes on is agency. Like they might not have memory or they might be halfway through a transition into a deer, but by the end of the book, they've learned some kind of like, hey, I can affect my world in this way. And I think that when people adapt the stories of other people, it's exactly what you said, man. It's like they have just kind of given up on like the discovery aspect, like the agency of their own life to kind of, develop their own. It's about having a personality, right? Having a personality is so important. And it comes from all these decisions, ideally, that you make for yourself. But it does kind of feel like some people just pick their story off the shelf and say, well, that's what I'm going to do. And you could zoom out macro, and that's the problem with like politics, right? Is LARPing. You hear that all the time. It's like, oh, these people are LARPing as this, that, or the other. Again, has no bearing on how serious they are, because LARPers can get pretty fucking serious. But we react to it with a kind of revulsion or disgust. I think no matter what side of the aisle that LARPing is on, because it's like you recognize the kind of giving up your sovereignty to somebody else's story, basically. And maybe that's an American thing. I don't know. Like, would Australians resonate with that?
Yeah. I think we are basically just like, because of social media, we're just like another state of America, really, at this stage.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Oh, thanks. Hey, Donald Trump's my president now. Hell yeah.
Oh, I wish we were.
A lot of
I wish
them.
we were. Then we'd have a First and a Second Amendment. That'd be
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Be cool.
I mean, yeah, we're not a state of America, but I mean, we culturally are. Like, and I think anyone in the English speaking world pretty much is. Like, America's the dominant English speaking cultural force. But like you're saying with like the agency stuff, like, and people get those sort of like Reddity, do we have free will and all of that sort of stuff. Maybe I heard like Glenn and Cy talk about this first, but I was like, I agree with the idea that like free will is something you can give up, sort of thing. Like whether or not we have ultimate free will, I think that gets down deep into metaphysics, and you'd need to like understand things that I don't think any human's capable of understanding. But like, I think more or less you can give it up and you can forfeit your free will. And like these people who just adopt another story kind of are doing that. Like, there's probably ways to do it in a more agency kind of way, like where you sort of just adapt, take elements or whatever, or like mishmash it all together. But yeah, when someone's just like, nope, I am fucking the Joker. That's me. Like, exactly. I'm just going to be, what would the Joker do? Like, if your thoughts are like, what would the Joker do in this situation? And you do that, then like, yeah, you should be put in prison. Like,
I love the idea of somebody at the DMV. He's like, how would the Joker handle this? In line for food at Chick-fil-A. Like, just gonna fucking ram this car, dude. Why so serious, bro? Yeah, no, I mean, and there's basically everybody is going to at some time join institutions or be a part of them through necessity, or because they, churches are like this too. I've always really had, here we go. Are you guys familiar with Russell Brand?
Yeah.
So I thought he was a very interesting and eloquent person who had a lot, during the COVID years, had a lot of great points that I would adopt and pretend that they were my own. I would steal his shit. But after his sex scandal recently, he converted to Christianity. Totally fine. I'm a Christian. Like, I have no issue with people being Christians. But the way he did it was so cringe, right? Like,
yeah.
I saw a clip of him recently that he's wearing a hat that says reborn with a cross on it. And he's always doing things like, since I've been saved by our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ and all my sins have been washed away. Like, he's using one day he just had all the lingo. It was a download. And far be it from me to get in the way of somebody achieving any kind of salvation. I think that's great on one level. But on the other hand, dude, come on. Like, what are you doing? Like, have a little bit of humility and agency. And where was the period of time where you thought to yourself, I'm exploring this, right? I go to church every Sunday, and I haven't become a member of it, because this shit takes a long time. I don't know these motherfuckers, right? Who knows? I could go 12 times, and as soon as I'm like, yeah, let me be a, what do they call it, like a catechumen or whatever. They're like, oh, cool, now we've got him. And then they chop my dick off. Like, what do I do then? Right? I'd really
That's
have
not what
egg
I
on
do,
my
David.
face. I don't know.
You're thinking of Judaism, and it's just the tip.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's already gone for me anyway.
Oh yeah.
Thanks, mom and dad.
Submitting
you know what I mean?
to
It's-
international jury that way, like.
yeah. I mean, I always used to, when I was in school, even, I grew up Presbyterian, like evangelical, and it was always cringe to me that like people who I knew at school and, we'd call each other every name in the book, but then at church, they'd be like, "Oh, I'm washed in the blood of Jesus." Like saying that shit feels like weird to me. It's like you just took that story and now you're making it your story. And there's a way to make it your story by this dance, this back and forth interaction with it, where it becomes a part of you through experience rather than just wholesale. So there's a lot of jokers, I think, in that religious world. But yeah, Russell Brand just came to mind as an egregious example of that. Again, I don't know if you've seen him talk recently,
No,
but if you
I've
have,
seen
you
it.
know what I mean.
It's corn dog as shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
And yeah, there's a couple of avenues I think that celebrities go, and I've seen this time and time again with celebrities, but also smaller celebrities like some Australian writers that I'm aware of. Some listeners will know who I'm talking about, but like once there's a Me Too-ish kind of scandal, you either have to go in as a man, a straight man, you either have to go in like a religious or like basically quasi-religious, semi kind of political fervor kind of direction, or become non-binary. Like that's basically, or trans or whatever. Like, so those are your two options, and those are basically those like non-agentic, like formulaic story options that you take on rather than things you were actually doing genuinely, agentically.
Right. And isn't that why so much of the non-binary and trans shit is annoying? It's because of that.
Yeah.
It's because I don't really believe you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I just don't think, I think that you just kind of saw this thing and you thought, this is me now. But then you do this thing where you say like, oh, it's always been that way. I've always, and it's like, no, dude, no. There's no fucking way. Like,
can't be like
I knew you.
that many people have always felt that way, and then it's just coming out now. Like
and conveniently after a Me Tooing, which is like no one ever does what they're supposed to do, which is that this is bullshit. I reject the hypothesis. Like if it's false, like, but they always do
it's
one
just
of those.
It's just getting active, bit of horseplay, like. But it's like with the trannies that say like they've always been this way, like. Yeah, I don't believe it when it's like a teenager or a 20-something-year-old. But when you know how like before tranny shit was everywhere, there was always like one old dude, like he'd be like in his 50s and he'd wear just a green dress and be kind of balding and like put on lipstick. And you'd see him at the shops. That he's about that shit. Like
he was about that life, and I respect it.
Yeah. But like now when it's just like an Asian chick and she'll just be like, I'm a queer person of color, and you're like, she's just got a boyfriend, and you're like, yeah, no,
not really. It's so funny too, because we've been online for so long now. You can hear like what the response to this is. It's like, oh, 3 white guys going around telling people what they're allowed to be. Yes, yes,
no,
actually, yeah.
Me and Frester are white. We're Italian, so we're not white.
Oh, that's true. You guys are close. Yeah,
I'm pretty German and English though. So I'm only 25% Italian.
Yeah. I'm half Polish, half English, so I'm pretty
He's a Polak.
Yep, I'm Polak. I saw this video today.
How they would say that. He's a Polak.
Oh yeah, and apparently that was a slur too, which is funny. And it also just goes to show you that like slurs are goofy, because every slur that I've ever heard for anything that I am, I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody screamed that at me, I'd be like,
well,
it
funny. Doesn't like translate to mean anything. It's just like, well, Polish, and then is it just because Polish names can end in like "ak" and stuff like that? Like, is that all?
I fucking don't know. I don't know.
It's like
but there's like
Chinaman, where people like, you can't say Chinaman. It's like, well, he's a man from China. like I don't see what the big deal is. It's even in Australia, like Aboriginal Abo is a slur, but I'm like, we abbreviate everything in Australia. I didn't ever think it was meant to be offensive. I thought it was just like that word has 4 syllables in it. Let's just cut it in half. Like,
Just shorten it, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, yeah,
haven't
that
got all
makes the
fucking
most.
day.
And as an American and somebody who's not around any Aboriginal people, like the word Abo doesn't mean anything to me. It's so funny how these, like, as soon as you take them out of like a cultural context, it just doesn't. I mean, they have no real power. But yeah, no, I real quick, I watched this like TikTok of Polish people. I'm not very familiar with Poland or how they act over there, but they're like, in Poland we do not take lemon with our vodka. We do a snack. And so they'll like drink vodka and then eat like cream
Cucumbers and stuff.
cheese, bagels, and cucumbers. I was
Yeah,
like,
zakuski.
you
it's like
fucking freaks.
hors
What the
d'oeuvres
fuck are you
kind of
doing?
What is with that part of the world and like cream cheese on wafers? Like, I do not get it. It's always cream cheese on wafers with like caviar, or like if you're less fancy, I don't know, cabbage or something. That's literally all they eat. Like
And
sardines.
the video was so funny too because it was like it was two people who look kind of like me, right? But like the lady had like stringy, ugly hair, and the dude had
lady
like an
looked like you
unkempt
too.
beard. Yeah, basically she looked like me. And like they're sitting at this plain wooden table in like a stone cabin, and the lighting made it look like they were in a prison cell. And I was like, oh yeah, this is where my people came from for sure. Just like fucking peasant class, dude. It was so
yeah.
good.
Yeah, he says like Russian and Polish, like hillbillies essentially. They just live out in like the country, but it's snowy, and yeah, it looks like they live medievally still. And yeah,
Yeah,
they just eat
it's my
cucumbers.
grandparents, dude. Yeah, they were chicken farmers, and I guess they were farming chickens over there, and then they came here to do it. Made
I
a lot more
remember
money doing it.
I remember when the whole Black Lives Matter thing was going off like a couple of years ago, and I was listening to Red Scare, and Anna and Dasha were talking about how like, oh, it's very different for Russians because you know how there's the Black Lives Matter, and then other people who are against that were saying, oh, you should be able to say all lives matter, and they were like, oh no, in the Russian way, it's like no lives matter.
Yeah.
Like it's like very that, like.
Yeah,
Like, some lives matter.
yeah.
Yeah.
Their movie posters are badass, though. Polish movie posters were
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah, a very strange people indeed. But
Mm.
yeah, no, I love that side of my family. What were we talking?
And yet,
I
but
derailed
yet
it this time.
Yeah, but that's all right. And yet you do not take that story on like in the way that some people can do ethnically as well. Like
Right.
some people can do that with whatever your ethnic
I think
heritage
that's
is.
what is annoying about work shit, especially is like you're in the like age where none of these minorities are actually genuinely persecuted, and you're taking on these stories from like the past. Like you're like, all right, they've made all the gains and stuff. I'm going to take on their victimization, act like it's happening to me now, and be fucking super annoying about it.
You don't know our struggles.
Yeah.
Our struggles? Like
Yeah. Like they'll be like Australia, there's heaps of like indigenous people, and like these places always do these corny things like welcome our new indigenous team member, and it's like that guy's way whiter than I am. Like and it's just like, well, it's like I don't know. I guess he is technically, but it's like you're mostly white. Like, and then he'll be the biggest libtard about it, like his struggle and all of the things. It's like
we need to have an Australian version of how Trump called Elizabeth Warren Pocahontas. We need an Australian version of that. Maybe Benelong. We call him Benelong. Like he was a famous Aboriginal back in the day. When they're white though. That's
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I've always thought of myself as an American. It's like I know that my ancestors came from different places, but I don't feel. Oh, funny story too. Like I was drinking one night, and my last name is Osborne, right? Which is like kind of a Norse. It means bear god. I was like, that's pretty tight. I'll bet you my ancestors were badass. And so I looked it up, and like the internet was literally like, hold your horses, bro. It was like 95% of people named Osborne are the northern English peasants who the Vikings just came through and killed and raped and enslaved and forced them to take that name. So that's probably you. I was like, yeah, that tracks. That's better.
But my ancestors were bear gods, and it's like, no, they're just rape victims.
Yeah, just rape victims. And so, but no, I've just always, I don't know. I mean, I think of myself as American. You guys probably think of yourself as Australian,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like,
yeah,
I mean, and we know that we came from different places, but I don't know if that has to be recent. Because if you were like a crusader and you decided to stay in Turkey or some shit, one generation, like your kid no longer gives a shit about where you came from. You
Mm,
know, it's only because we know these other places exist and can look at pictures of them that we even know that about ourselves.
mm,
But it is fucking annoying. It's really
mm,
annoying.
mm.
Like just make your own story.
Well, exactly, and that's something I wanted to get to as well. Like, I think you've spoken about this on Agitator, maybe even on one of the many episodes on this podcast you've done. The kind of writer whose aim is to work on someone else's intellectual property. This to me is a bizarre archetype. I do not understand it. Like, what's that? All the joy is drained out of it to me.
Sure.
And I don't. And there's so much of this now as well. You know, you've got your more like uh, for want of a better word, woke side of things, which is that we're going to turn this thing that used to be popular, mostly with straight white men, into some like diversity casting thing where, like, you know, somehow it's lecturing the previous fans why they were bad for liking this thing. I don't know. Like,
But it
there's
also
that.
still trying to like capture them as an
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, yeah. So there's that iteration of it. But just in general, people whose aim is to like, you know, their creative work is stepping stones to, I don't know, writing a Batman comic or something. That to me is insane. Like, I do not understand
Yeah.
this mentality. And it's another version of putting on the story, like, or injecting yourself with
Right.
the story. Yeah.
Right. I knew a lot of people who were like this when I was in the shit. I'll put it that way. Um, there was a guy who I knew who was really succeeding, really doing well. And I remember this post, he put it on Facebook and he was like, "You guys, I'm crying right now. One of my life goals has finally been achieved." And he'd written like a short story for an official Star Wars anthology. He's like, "I made it." And I was like, "Dude, that's gay." What are you talking about? I mean, if somebody was to pay me to do that, I'd do it. Sure, of
Hmm.
course. Indiana Jones story sounds like fun. Sounds like a good time. But what I really learned from kind of being in the shit with these people is that everything. I was talking to Kelby about this today, as a matter of fact, in a group chat. It's a difference in our constitutions, basically, where I'm interested in telling stories that are, to be fair, derivative of things that have influenced me, as I think everybody's stories are in some way, shape, or form. But these people are a different breed, and I think what's going on is that they were I won't mince words. They've been losers most of their lives, and they kind of internalized a corporate structure for how everything should be done. And they realize intrinsically, which I never understood, that there were gatekeepers whose dicks you had to suck to get to a certain place, and that like all they really wanted in life when they were, and this actually makes me feel kind of sad for them, is like when they were a lonely child, there were these IPs that made them feel a little bit less alone. And their goal in life, if you're looking at it charitably, is to create stories within that IP, maybe to make another kid feel less alone. But really, it's kind of sadder than that, even, because it's really about a kind of ersatz self-actualization that doesn't actually require work in the sense of doing push-ups or getting better at your craft or coming up with original ideas or being your own person and having agency. Again, that word that I love. It comes from being able to be the best good boy enough that you are allowed to have the keys to daddy's car for a weekend.
Mm,
Really kind of a sad life, honestly.
mm.
But at the same time, it makes them happy. Maybe it helps some people. I don't know. I don't think anybody's reading Star Wars books. I think Chuck Wendig pretty much put the nail in that coffin. But But anyway, yeah.
He had like Princess Leia saying "fuckity fuck," like fuck stick or something like
Literally.
that. Yeah,
Have you
no.
read the reviews for that?
No.
That was one of the most masterful things I've ever seen an author do. And it worked for a time, but it doesn't really work anymore. When he came out with his Star Wars books, it was flooded with one-star reviews. The vast majority of those one-star reviews said something like, "This book fucking sucks. I hate it." But there were like two or three that complained that there were gay characters in it. And he took those screenshots and, Matt Edward Bernays style, crafted this media narrative that the reason why people didn't like his Star Wars stuff is because they were homophobic. And he got some traction. They let him go eventually, but he got some real traction out of that for a while. And I remember being like, dude, because I was a troll. I'd be like, dude, did you read the other reviews that just talk about how like the book fucking sucks and you're not very good at writing? That guy's a mystery, a total mystery to me. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's writing in somebody else's IP as kind of your life goal is the ultimate. You know what? Actually, Matt, like you might have really touched on it. Maybe that's why I write about story as this malicious plastic silicone force, because it really does bug me when people don't just do their own thing. It's none of my business, I guess, at the end of the day, whatever you want to do, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Clearly when you read this book as well, you're not homophobic because there's lots of gay sex in it. So, well, gay rape, really.
Yeah, it's gay rape.
Yeah. So, with the
I thought it was kind of cute, like when he tells him he's got a fat ass.
Yeah, he's got a
Right?
fat ass, and he's like, he's a semen demon dripping in cum. That was great. Love that. And I I loved. I also love the character of Whitmer, which we like talked about before. Like, I imagined him as like, just because the way that he was framed and like, it's like, hey dude, what's up? He kind of just reminded
Like he's the one who's like, "Hey, I'm a tree."
yeah. I was like,
That made me think of Rick and Morty, where he's like, "Hey, I'm a pickle." Or
yeah,
whatever.
no, I was imagining like Jay from Jay and Silent Bob as the tree. Like that's what I was like picturing in my head. But like, that was so funny. But he was like this. He's like the kind of antagonist in a way, like the one who's produced all of this chaos. Yeah, just little things like that were hilarious, and obviously the erotic gay rape scenes were some of my favorites.
Yeah, I know.
Who amongst us hasn't felt that way? You know, you see a nice juicy ass, and you're just dripping in cum.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. So it's so basically, for listeners, the story of it is that it's this militia compound in the backwoods of Oklahoma, and they're preparing for some kind of undisclosed terrorist attack. Basically, they're going to do something. And the leader the whole time is this kind of dipshit, but he's a dipshit who's, for some reason, and I know people like this, a lot of really good cunning men are dipshits as well. He just understands chemistry somehow, and he understands like the spirit of the thing. And so he's able to create this serum ostensibly to turn his militia into super soldiers who can kind of take over the US government. But what happens is one of the characters, Cameron, who's sort of the lieutenant of the operation, brings his drug addicted brother to the camp to kind of like help him dry out a little bit. And the brother sells him out and brings a group of skinheads in. And so where the action starts is actually while the militia is doing cleanup on the skinheads. Like that's already happened. And things just sort of go to shit. One thing after another goes wrong. People start drinking the potion and turning into monsters. And one of the guys, he's like super horny. And he's always like falling for catfishing schemes and shit like that. So when he drinks the potion, he becomes a monster that's just like covered in cum and is super, super horny all the time. And that scene is one of my favorites. I was like waiting. I don't know if this comes through in the writing, but that's like the centerpiece of the book, right? And I set that up so
Emphasis on the word
carefully.
peace. Yeah.
Yeah, right, right. And so the joke of that scene is that the guy who gets raped by the semen demon is this lovable guy who doesn't let things bother him. He's kind of carefree. And he's gotten under the skin of another militia member who's just pissed off all the time about everything. Like life's just taking a shit on this guy, but he's decided to be bitter about it. Whereas Phil, this other character, has decided to be happy-go-lucky about it. And so their punishment is Whitmer puts them in these isolation tanks that basically they share a dream and they basically play Max Payne together, but they have to control Max Payne together. And when they come out, if Phil gets hit, Santos, the other guy, gets hurt. And so that culminates in a rape scene where Phil, who's being raped, is basically okay. And Santos is being like put in all these different pretzel positions across the yard somewhere.
Yeah, that was
It's
funny.
very funny. It's
Yeah,
very
that
funny.
was funny. That was one of my favorite scenes, and yeah, him being so pissed off afterwards as well. And like Phil is a hilarious character because actually Phil kind of reminds me of me. Like I'm just like, whatever. Like I'm just like, okay, whatever.
If
Like
that happened to
just
you, you'd
shrugs
just
it
be
off.
like, whatever, dude. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
well, no,
Water off a duck's
I
back.
probably would be the semen demon, but that's another
You'd be
story.
the semen demon.
Yeah, yeah. But but yeah, like I and that's a definite type of person, and binary oppositions in stories are always hilarious as well. But like, you play one character who's really uptight off someone who's sort of just just like Phil, essentially.
Mhm,
Nothing gets to
mhm.
him. But the wonderful thing about that dynamic is that they're like, it's not just the conflict between them, like because of their personalities. They kind of share personalities because of that situation, which was like really,
Mhm.
really funny.
Yeah.
Not just in that scene, just like lots of little moments like that were hilarious. So
Yeah, there's kind of a lot going on.
mm,
Whenever I go into a book, I was telling my wife this today because she finished the draft of this book and she doesn't really know what to do next. And I said, instead of thinking about it in terms of the story that you want to tell or the kind of point that you want to get across or the theme or anything like that, just give yourself a challenge for one thing that you want to do well in the book. And for Berserker Club, it was landscapes. I
mhm,
literally just wrote the book with the idea that I wanted people to understand where the characters were in physical space at all times. That's what I really put the most work into. But then there are other kind of like, second tier things that I focused on, and I think that with character and dialogue, I'm really good at that. I was just already really good at that, and so with like the Phil and the Santos, were like I like two characters that play off of each other. I think it really makes the pages turn when you have like Jody, who's basically he's Michael Clark Duncan, but he's like the Green Mile Michael Clark. He's like
mhm,
autistic, but he's also a psychopathic killer. And so if you put him with somebody who's like Cameron, who's very type A and has a headache all the time and is very worried about that, like that moves your plot along. Really,
mhm,
it's the Abbott and Costello model of
mhm,
writing, basically. So that was real for me. That part of it was really easy and came natural to me. But the next one, that I'm writing, my focus is going to be very specifically on pacing. Like
mhm,
I want to pace it as well as I possibly can, because I think
mhm,
that you should approach every book with beginner's mind and actually accurately understand what your flaws are as a writer and try to
mhm,
attack those until they stop being flaws, with the
mhm,
ultimate goal of being, 60 or something and writing like Gene Wolfe,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
who I'm sure by the end it was relatively effortless to do what he did.
Mhm.
You just sit down and write whatever.
Is the Pringles man Gene Wolfe? Because someone
Yes.
shared, is it?
He
It
invented
is.
the Pringles can. Yeah.
Yeah, but is the man on the logo
Yes.
him? Okay, because
It's
it
him.
does
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
like him. Because
Yeah.
I remember someone posted a picture of the new Pringles
Mhm.
can, and it looks like a woman, and they were like they yassified Gene Wolfe.
No.
First, Mr. Potato Head's trans, and now this.
Yeah, I don't know.
That actually makes a lot of
It
sense.
might have just been some like AI creation or whatever. Who knows? But like, yeah.
Like the Trans Hall of Fame, it's like the cast of Paris is burning, and the lady from what's the fucking movie with the two trans people and the guy who killed himself recently? Tangerine,
Tangerine,
right?
yeah.
And then Mr. Potato Head. That's cool.
Some and like we've got the yarn as well that's sort of carried over from the previous book. We also have your perennial imagistic obsession with guys with deer heads. But in this book, slightly different. Where does that come from? Did that come from to you in a dream or something? Like, what's the fascination with guy with deer head?
It might have actually been a dream. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get a lot of my stuff from dreams.
yeah.
In fact, the thing that I'm writing right now, it was literally a dream that I had a week ago, and I woke up and it was so vivid. I was like, I have to do that. And then as the dream fog cleared, I was like, oh, this is basically Gantz, like the anime Gantz. And I was like, yeah, but I had a dream about it, so it's mine now. Um, it had to have been a dream. And I don't know, there's something about like the peaceful nature of a deer and how pretty those antlers look, but also badass because they kind of look like a black metal logo, you know?
Mm.
I just think they fucking look cool.
Mm.
I don't know.
So in the book, one of the characters gets his head blown off and then gets a deer skull to replace him. Becomes a revenant. I was reminded of. Have you played The Witcher 3?
I have.
No, it's on the list though.
I was reminded of the Leshen. That's one of the like forest demons. It's sort of like it kind of like slinks, or it doesn't slink. It kind of like is huge, and it's that they're always really hard to kill too. And they've got like sort of like antler deer skulls, and they're all made of like kind of like a mix between an ant and like they've got like bark and shit all over them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. So you should play it. Like.
I should. That sounds badass.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like these, you see it all over the place. If you go to, DeviantArt or something like that, you will see tons of deer skull monster things. I think it's just something that's in our collective unconscious. I'd love to know what it means. But
yeah, there is something evocative about it. I think it is that what you're saying, the kind of gentleness of the deer and mixed with something monstrous or like violent or whatever is really cool.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
and
probably
I
some
think
like Jungian symbolic analysis of it, and like things like True Detective. Wasn't there something about like the deer antlers in that or something like? There's
You're
something
right. Yeah,
totemic about them.
the victim had deer antlers affixed to her head. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Which is that's interesting. No, yeah, I mean it's got to be in there somewhere. I mean, I'll go look at man and his symbols. It'll be like it's a symbol of
It's like if you dream of this,
repressed
you are gay.
You were
homosexuality.
gay.
Turns out if you're obsessed with deer skulls,
You want something gentle and soft, but also
penetrating.
but penetrating.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I heard something like, I'd just keep it moving, man. Be like, "All right,
Yeah.
that sounds fake to me, but
Yeah,
Carl-
that Garfield
Carl
thing.
Jung-
Like,
yeah.
who's that for?
Carl Jung called me gay.
Carl, he doesn't have room to talk because in Man and His Symbols, he talks about like this dream that changed his life. And it was basically when he was a kid, he had this dream where he's walking through this woods and he comes upon this church. And then this enormous penis comes out of nowhere and crushes the church.
so true, bestie.
So Carl Jung can keep it to himself.
Man and his symbols.
Yeah. Yeah. Men and there's
But yeah, so yeah, you were talking about your strategy here, like with the writing career going forward. You were mentioning that before. you're doing short books. Is it like short books in between bigger ones, or like short books until you get to a bigger one, sort of thing? Because did
Yeah.
God's Fair Know Better like do a number on you or something? Are you afraid of big books now, or what's the?
No, no, I mean, I love that, but I think that's my best book. I like that the best. Kelby says he likes Berserker Club better. But God's Fair No Better is something that I'm really proud of, and I'd like to keep doing more of them.
Hmm.
But I'm very practical about this now. There's a few things going on. Number one is that I have a lot of ideas, and I don't have, it's going to sound morbid, but I don't have enough life left to spend each book being 200,000 words, right?
Yeah.
So there is that. Secondly, practically speaking, I would really like to be able to be a writer as a full-time career. I don't think that's a pie in the sky thing. I know it's very difficult. I understand that. But I don't think that it's necessarily unachievable. And I think for a lot of readers, it's a big ask to have a bunch of big books unless you're writing for an autistic audience of lit RPG fans, which I am not,
Mm.
right? So the kind of reader that I'm writing for, I think needs shorter books right now. Um, Third, there's this great article, a blog actually, by Warren Ellis of comic book fame, not the Bad Seeds Warren Ellis, where he's talking about what George Simenon called the pure novel. And so this idea is that a book that's between 30 and 40,000 can focus like just on the drama. You can get in, you can get out, and you have none of the excess fluff of a bigger book. And Ellis is writing about this, and he said, I'm in this weird position because he's very much still in the industry, even though he got Me Too'd and all that nonsense. But I'm in this position where I actually just like writing books that are that size, and so do I. I really
Mm.
do. I don't like writing short stories. I feel if a story is, 7 or 8,000 words, it's a little bit too short. These other books can be really long, and I just, frankly, a lot of these stories don't, like, could you imagine Berserker Club being like 500 pages? Like, where would I take it? What would I do? You know, it's an idea that's good for about 2 hours, and then it's like, okay, what's this monster going to be?
Mm.
Another variation on a pussy or a dick or whatever, um, probably a dick. Let's be real. But but I like working in that register very much. And there are things that you can't do with that. You can't, a big part of books is their temporality, and reading a big, like I read Hyperion with Glenn, and I've read a lot of big books in 2025. I read a bunch of big ones, and there's a cumulative stacking effect that big books have where you've lived in them that creates an emotional response that is impossible, no matter how good the novella is, to recreate in a novella length, because time is the actual element that makes you feel that way. So you can't do that. But I like that mode. In terms of the bigger books, I just kind of chip away at them. So I have it's in the God's Fair No Better universe. It's called The Wretched Blade of Tusk, and it's about a woman whose son is abducted and taken up in this big tower, and she has to fight her way up the tower to save him. And the size of Berserker Club is just her getting to the tower, and
Mm.
it's all good, right? I don't want to cut any of it, so I know that book is going to be huge, but I just kind of work on that slowly. And so I think making a kind of path for yourself as a writer is having a bunch of examples of what you do. And I think that if I'm able to keep up the pace, because Berserker Club came out in December and Gods was in April, but I wrote the book in about 3 months or so. If I can keep up a good pace and people are realizing like, hey, this guy produces regularly and the books are fun, and I'm fine with spending, $15 on it to have a good time. You begin to build trust in that way. But also you kind of, I don't know, you just kind of give yourself this sort of space to be somebody that people trust, to read books. And so you just need you need that. And the other thing you need is just a clear signal that you're sending to people. And so I think it's fine to hop genres and do different things, but if you it's just fresh on my mind because I just finished these books. But if you read King of Dogs and Crowbar, there's a very clear through line of like the way that where Edward sees the world. If you read House of Sleep and The Earth and Dark, you see that Brad has this very clear like idea of how the world works. And I think if you read Gods Fear No Better and Berserker Club, you see this very clear signal. And I think that's what people are looking for. Right? They wouldn't want me to do like a cozy mystery where nobody's being disemboweled or raped or anything like that. It wouldn't make sense. But I think with all the noise that's out there, this is my guess because I'm not a successful writer currently, but my guess is prolific output of quality material with a very strong thesis.
So would you say that looking at like writing in this way, like in terms of professionalizing it and like getting to the level of success that you want to get to, would you say that God's Fear No Better was like the hinge point? And then like, and what were you doing before? Like, and how would you sort of contrast those two things?
You're such a good interviewer. That's a really good question.
People literally say that to me sometimes on air, like when I'm talking to them. Yeah.
I mean, it's true. That's a really good question. And I understand what you mean entirely. So basically, I have written like 7 or 8 books, right? So what was I doing before God's Fear? God's Fear No Better was 100% a hinge point. I've done a lot of growing, and I'll tell you what it actually was. And I encourage people to do this. I see so much shit on Substack or X that's all about either being mad about trad publishing and how it's over and self-publishing is the way to go, or being mad about agents or submission fees, this, that, and the other, right? But what I really don't see, except for in a very few select people, are writers who talk about the craft that they've decided to dedicate their life to and how they're trying to get better at it and what they're learning along the way. And if you do, it's always some 18-year-old who's trying to start a literary revolution and is like, we're going to be the superstar poets of tomorrow. No, you're not, right? I just want to know what you're actually doing. So I think what really happened to me in the time that I was writing God's Fear No Better was COVID-19, right? So before COVID-19, I had this curse that happened to me where I was really successful. Like the most successful I've ever been was when I was 23 years old. And I wrote By the Time We Leave Here, We'll Be Friends, which for whatever reason became a cult hit and sold like something like 5,000 or 6,000 copies, right? Still not huge, but in an indie scene, that's big, right? Pretty much everybody within that scene at that point has read the book. And then my second book came out and it was translated into French. And I was flown to France to hang out with like heroes of mine. And all this happening on like a retarded young brain is really bad, because what happens is you actually don't think that you need to improve at all. You think you've got it figured out. You're like, well, this worked, so why don't I just keep doing that? So anyway, COVID-19 happened, and I hadn't really written very much, but I had still been able to coast along on releasing one of these slim novellas every 2 or 3 years and having everybody golf clap and say, oh, this really affected me. And I do love those, but I don't want to shit on my own books, right? But like, I was being gassed up in a way that I really don't think I deserved. And when COVID-19 happened, everybody suddenly was like, oh, this guy's a Nazi, right? We actually
he would have loved Frester's Nazi wing in his library.
Yeah. Like, this guy's a Nazi. He's clearly racist, homophobic, like whatever else you want to put on him. That's who this guy is. Let's completely excise him from all of these groups, right? And honestly, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because there was another important thing too, right? Is that I started Broken River Books, which was, again, really big in the indie scene. Like a lot of authors you see now at Barnes & Noble, they started in Broken River Books. I was a really good tastemaker. And so
first published Ian, didn't you? You were the first one to publish Ian.
I did. I was the first one to publish Ian. Yeah. I published Ian, Stephen Graham Jones, William Boyle, like like a bunch of these people. I wasn't the first to publish Stephen Graham Jones, but
Mm.
William Boyle I was. But so basically, you essentially have a bunch of people who aren't being honest with you. And you put out a book like Black Gum, which again I like, but it's kind of like a diary of being addicted to drugs, like sad young man, Jesus son type shit. And everybody who reads it is like, oh, masterwork. Oh, this is so, just the prose is so, so beautiful. Once that all goes away, and people are like, we hate your guts, and we're not going to just pretend because we want something from you or because that's just what everybody else is doing, it kind of made me think like, am I good at this? Or have I just always had like gifted kid syndrome where I've been able to kind of fake it? And I started looking at my older books and being like, well, you've never written a proper ending. Um, you really skimp when it comes to kind of sensory detail and pacing. Your books are composed mostly of these vignettes that kind of fit together. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But you haven't really learned how to tell a story. And so I had this great like moment of humility where I went back and I was like, I'm gonna buy all the stupid books that I never read because I thought I was above them. I'm going to read Stephen King's On Writing, and I'm going to read Bird by Bird, and I'm going to read the Bestseller Code, and I'm going to read, The Plot Whisperer. All these, and most importantly, by the way, and I recommend this to everybody, Deborah Chester's The Fantasy Fiction Formula,
Yeah,
which
that's
I
a
think
great book.
is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Even if you don't
I
write
think
fantasy, it's a great book. Yeah.
it's great. It's great. The ideas of scenes and sequels, of just like really practical advice about like, okay, I know that conflict is what's supposed to be happening all the time, but what about the moments that aren't conflict? She's got an answer for you, a very practical answer of how to do that. So Deborah Chester, all these books, like I went to the University of Oklahoma, and while I was in university, like that's when my book was being published and selling all these copies. So I didn't take any fucking writing classes. I was like, I know how to do this. Guess who the creative writing teacher was? It's Deborah Chester.
Yeah.
She was right there. She was across the way at a building called Gaylord, funny enough. But but so once I was made to be humble, this is kind of part of the arc here, right? I started really assessing what my flaws were as a writer, not to beat myself up, but to be like, okay, cool, you can get better at this. And I started to really admire, thriller writers and sci-fi writers and fantasy writers because I started reading them. I got out of my own ass and started reading this shit and being like, hey, it's good. I read the whole fucking thing. I didn't finish, the book that they found in Roberto Bolaño's sock drawer. You know what I mean? Like I didn't finish that one, but I finished this fantasy book or this science fiction book. And so God's Fair No Better is a representation of me trying to take things that I've learned and like humble myself a little bit and be like, yeah, dude, there's things that you do fantastically. You can write a good sentence and you can do good dialogue and your characters do feel like they're alive, right? But that in nothing that I just said did it mention telling a story. Okay, so how do you actually tell a story? And God's Fair No Better, as you said, was that hinge point where I started to redevelop beginner's mind and really attack this with the idea that like life is short. And when you write something, I reject entirely the idea that you're just doing it for you. This is just my self-expression. Well, how dare you then tell somebody to give some of their hard-earned money to read your self-expression and spend 4 or 5 hours of their life reading your self-expression? To me, there's an arrogance to that that really leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
It's also a lie.
Yeah.
Like no one believes that. Like I hate this, especially it's a thing with a lot of artists, but especially with a lot of writers. This little old meing, oh, here's my book, and just like putting it forward really shyly or whatever. No, you want to put that out there. You think it's good enough. You wrote it because you think it's good enough. So say that
Yes.
rather
And they
than
just want to like lower the stakes so that if it doesn't do
Yeah.
well, they can be like, well, I never cared if it would do well anyway.
exactly.
So I'm
That's
not
part
the
of it
loser
too.
here.
Yeah. That's part of it,
Right.
definitely.
And that's the thing. I do care, right?
Yeah.
I'm really I was looking at my sales numbers for Berserker Club and I was really happy with them. And I feel a real sense of obligation. As a matter of fact, sometimes it makes my stomach hurt a little bit, right? Because I'm like, oh shit, like people are reading this. I hope I'm not wasting their time,
Mm.
right? I genuinely hope when people read my books that they like them because I wrote them to be enjoyed. And so if you read my earlier books, there's humor in them, but I didn't really allow myself to be like goofy funny the way that I am now. But like my mode from God's Fair No Better on is like entertainment. And the funny
Mm.
thing is that the themes that exist in my heart for whatever reason, whether that is story as a living thing or gay rape, come out anyway. You know, it comes out anyway. Like you don't have to approach books as this is my philosophical idea of how the world
This
works.
is my gay rape novel or
This
whatever,
is my, yeah,
like, yeah,
exactly, right?
yeah.
It's like, yeah,
With
this is my
JDO, every
irreversible.
novel's the gay rape novel.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm gonna put one in the next book where it almost happens, and I'm gonna give you blue balls. I'm gonna take it away. Be like, no. But no, I look at this, and I'm very serious. I'm being very serious about this. I look at this as a service industry,
Mm.
right? And I am making a big ask of people, which is to give me money to spend time of their precious life in my little fantasy world, right? And so what does that mean practically? It means that I need to do things like understand basic story structure and plot structure and how to keep the pace up and how to keep it entertaining. And it's all this kind of like if I was an architect, I could do like cool flourishes to the house or whatever, but I need to fucking know how the ductwork functions and how to get electric in there and all that kind of shit, right? That's the best metaphor I can think of. So yeah, man, it totally is a hinge point. I know that's a really long-winded answer, but it's also a rant that I want people who are listening to this to take away. Like if you push back against what I'm saying and say like, no, I am an artist and the sweet nectar juice that comes out of my pussy is like what people should be in love with, listen to yourself for a second.
Mm.
You're deluding yourself. Like try to get better, be humble.
Mm. You
Write a
are
good
an
book.
artist. You are an artist in those things that you're talking about, like being able to structure and write scenes and do all of that stuff. Like that's part of your toolbox as an
Hmm.
artist. It's like it's not just pure self-expression all the time, it's there's a
Yeah.
structure to it. It's a story. It has to have these things. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to have these things, but like it's better if it does
Oh,
because
sure. I mean, there's
yeah.
exceptions to
Yeah.
everything, right? I mean, like the popularity of something like Stoner is a good example,
Mm, mm,
which I like that book a lot. It's a good book. Um, but yeah, no, I do think that if you were another type of artist, like a sculptor, you would be expected to be able to create like a reasonable human form out of that, or a gargoyle or whatever. You couldn't just like leave a lump of, Picasso could only do his childlike drawings at the end because he proved that he was a badass before then.
yeah, and it's
But
also
yeah,
like most artists, like this is such a tired point and everyone says it, but like most artists are like trying to do the childlike Picasso thing before they've even
Mm.
mastered the thing that they're
right.
deconstructing. So it's all deconstruction all the time rather than like actually mastering the construction of the thing. Like, you're a writer, which is you're a storyteller. Can you actually tell a story, or is it just like 80,000 words of philosophical musing, like go write a philosophy paper if you want to do that, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Or like with me, like with my first book, I mean, I was 23 and I was super influenced by David Lynch.
mm,
And I was doing things that David Lynch did way later
mm,
in his career after he'd proved, in my mind at least, that he could do a movie like Blue Velvet, which works as a movie, and then gradually deconstructed it, or Twin Peaks, right? And then gradually deconstructed as time went on. I skipped the line. I was like, no, I want to do that thing.
mm,
But the reason that it was so good was because he'd already learned the other stuff
mm,
so that those techniques could, I mean, even be present in a movie like Mulholland Drive, which seems like a total schizo, whatever, but it's a very well crafted movie, which is what makes
Mm.
it work. But when you're young and stupid, you don't see that. You see that it's weird and confounding and difficult, and That's what makes it cool.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And plus
I
the
don't
like
know.
lack of formal structure feels like you're like, yeah, I can sort of like take the easy way out in these things and no one will notice.
There's a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's a
And
big
then they'll
part of
think
it
it's
too. That's
genius because it's like doesn't fit the formal thing or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, like, I don't know. I get riled up about it. Not that everybody has to do what I'm doing, but I don't know. I really like approaching it like it's a craft and that I'm a
Mm.
craftsman who is going into every project trying to do something cool that people will enjoy. I don't think that's cringe. I think that's just the way it should be done,
Yeah.
right?
Like, and yeah, there's a lot of belly aching on social media and Substack, like you said, of people like, oh, no one wants to read any, like, they're saying no one reads anymore, but it's like, no, they just don't want to read your shit.
Yeah.
Like, make it so people
Yeah.
want to read it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you got to do. Like,
Yeah. And it's like I can put Berserker Club in your hand and I can if you're a certain kind of person, obviously,
mhm.
I can put it in your hand and I can say with a straight face, like you'll have a good time. Like
Mm.
you will enjoy this. It's not going to be your favorite book of all time, but you'll have fun. It'll be a good time.
Mm.
And I think that is a lot more solid than this kind of this weird this weird kind of just clamming up when people buy it and you're kind of like, well, it's like you're selling them a lemon and you kind of
Mm.
know it's a lemon and you're
Mm.
just hoping that they get off the lot before the wheels fall off kind of thing. It's like I don't have to do that anymore because I
Or,
know that I put effort into it.
yeah. Or just like, you know, speaking from the sidelines about like what books need to be or whatever, rather than doing them when you profess to be a writer. Um,
It's going to really
uh,
show, dude. It's going to show in a
yeah,
couple years when I have like 7 or 8 of these things and I haven't spent my time writing blogs about what books are supposed to be. And I
masculinity
haven't,
in literature, like
right?
Alex Perez
Sure.
those jokers. Yeah.
And I could just be like, no, this is while you guys were doing that, this is what I was working on.
Mm,
And I have an audience of people who are interested. It's the most bizarre thing happens. And this is going to sound like the most simple thing, but I have racked my brain about how to, how to find an audience and how to become a writer. And I've just seen organically from putting out God's Fear No Better and Berserker Club, it start to happen.
mm.
People read it, they like it, they talk about it. And for years and years, I didn't have any of that. And I spent that time being like, what could I do that would just get me an audience? You know, I want people to know that like all this criticism that I'm doing, the reason why it's such a good criticism is because I was the asshole that I'm talking
Mm,
about. And it turns out, yeah, if you just write cool books,
mm.
people
But
just
also
they're like,
like, yeah, the whole consistency production line sort of thing is a
yeah,
good strategy too, because that works for everything. Like
everything.
podcasts, like we have our audience on podcasts because we do a podcast every week and keep
Hmm.
coming, and it's around about the same length usually. It's the same sort of thing, and you just keep going, and that's how you develop an audience. There's no
Yeah,
like,
it builds trust,
yeah, yeah.
Like people basically, I think that there was a huge bomb that hit people, and it was bad for all writers. But when George R. R. Martin failed to finish The Winds of Winter, which he's never going to write at this point,
Mm,
I think a lot of readers got super gun shy about things like series,
mm,
but also authors in general, because people don't buy, in a lot of cases, they don't buy books, they buy authors.
mm,
And and they also don't get on board. You'll notice that very few people go crazy over like an author that just has one book. That's usually not the case. People can have hit debuts, etc., but like the authors who are super popular, I would challenge you to find one that just has one or two.
mm,
Most of them have seven, eight, nine. And it's because what people are signing up for is like they want to feel like there's more value there once they start. If they, and I'm not there yet, right? I do have the back catalog, but and it's good. But basically, once you have 7 or 8 of them, people are like, cool. If I read this book and I like it, there's this many more. And he's proven that he puts these out every quarter.
mm.
It's going to be just a fit, you know? it's one of the reasons why I think that, you know, I don't know how well Mark Danielewski's new book is doing, but like to put like a huge tome out every 5 or 6 years. I mean, House of Leaves was so big that might be an outlier case, so it might be a bad example. But in most cases, people want to read. They find a voice that they like and they want to read more of it. That's how I read, right? When I got into Philip K. Dick, how awesome was that to be like, holy shit,
Yeah.
there's like 70 books
Yeah.
that I could potentially read of this dude if I wanted to. If there was one, I'd be like, I don't know if I would have ever picked up the one. So it's like, then that's it.
Yeah, it's like you're locking in like a guarantee, like X amount of hours of like entertainment. Like, because whenever like I do a lot of like, well, I want to know what this author's about, so I'm constantly like reading authors I've never read before, and there's always that like 30 pages of like, do I trust this motherfucker? You know, like, and then once you do, and then you're like, oh, and he's got 12 books, awesome. Like, you know, I know they're probably not, maybe they won't all be as good as this one, but like, I know like I vibe with his style at least, so I can like guarantee I'm gonna have like get entertained by him. And so yeah, like you're saying, if they only just have one book, I was thinking even sometimes I'm like, well, who would I say my favorite authors are? And I'm always like, I don't think I can put an author into my favorite category if I haven't read like at least like 3 or 4 of their books. Like, you know what I mean? Even if the one book I read by them, like Gary Indiana, I thought Resentment was incredible, one of the best books I've ever read, but it's the only one I've ever read by him. So I couldn't stick him in my favorite authors list until I've read like a few more, you know?
Yeah,
So
and there's no cooler feeling, dude, of reading a James Elroy book and loving it and being like, oh, like where do I go next? Right? There's this whole like if there was only American Tabloid, I guarantee you wouldn't know who he was. Right? Or if there was only the Black Dahlia, I guess, or whatever his first. He did those early pulp, like Blood on the Moon and shit like that.
yeah. Brown's
but
Requiem.
yeah, which is a really funny title.
It was what Sinners was originally going to be called.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I mean, it's like we kind of get into this mode of, like the debut author. And then this is the problem with the publishing industry is that it puts these debut authors out. And then I think if I was running shit, I wouldn't have a debut author. I would make sure that they had 3 or 4 books, which sounds crazy, I know. But I would put them all out at the same time. Totally counter to how publishing works. I get
ABC
that.
testing.
Yeah,
Like,
I would put all these books out, and I'd be like, if I could go back, as a matter of fact, I feel like I released Gods and Berserker Club a little bit too fast because I would go back and do the same shit. If I could like give myself advice, I'd have Gods, Berserker Club, and like 2 others, and I'd put those out. And because I think 4 is where you get to this point where you're like, here's a sampler, right? You can try shorter ones. There's a longer one if that's more your bag, but people just want to be able to follow a cool artist that has a catalog. It's with music too, right? Like, have you ever like heard a single and been like, "Oh shit, this is amazing," and then they have like an EP with 4 songs, and you're like, "Fuck, I was ready to dig in," and then you kind of forget about them because you're like, "Oh well, it's just the EP." I'm not a huge music guy. Maybe that's more me, but
Unless there's an exception to this though, with books and music, unless there is some kind of like compelling story with the author. So for instance, like the Confederacy of Dunces guy like killed himself or whatever. So there's this like mythos that's sort of built around like, and that again, it goes back to what we were saying before about like the story being this like living kind of thing that like infuses so much, even the reception of stories and authors themselves.
Right. I mean, you find that too, like every young dude. I read the Book of Disquiet by Fernando Pessoa. I don't know how many books he has exactly, but that's the one, right?
Yeah. But I think there's that, and then there's lots of poetry and stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Which is just totally not my thing. But
I don't care about poetry.
No.
Yeah, you find that and you're like, it's the mythos, like you said, around so I guess the options are being prolific and writing a bunch of book or killing yourself and only writing one book. You could do that too. But yeah, no, I think, yeah, if you're a living writer, then I mean, you made a great point with the podcasts. It's with music, it's with movies, it's whatever. It's like you want two or three to make sure that the one isn't a fluke. You know, even like one hit wonders in songs and shit. It's like they still, you know, Smash Mouth had like 5 albums or some shit, you know? So yeah, that's JDO Smash Mouth of books.
Yeah. Just show up. Like that's what you got to do. Is just show up.
Yeah.
And
you're working. You're at work, right? Like your output is your work, and you're showing that you are clocking in. Basically.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Like it's one of the writers who I look up to the most is Carlton Mellick III, who's a Bizarro writer. He wrote like Satan Burger and The Menstruating Mall. He's got like 50 or 60 books at this point. But that was his model. And it's the one that I'm completely lifting from him, which is he had a book every quarter and they were short. And he gained a very loyal following that would buy all of his books. I think because they knew they were going to get something funny, weird, that was going to be a quick read, right? That's another thing, right? Can you read it in 2 hours? And that it was a deliverable that was there every quarter.
Yeah.
It's I know this is taking a lot of like the sexiness and mystique out of authordom, but I really do think it's that simple, is to have a deliverable on time.
Yeah. Yeah, Bizarros. I haven't thought about those guys in ages. You know, my first international publication was in a Bizarro publication.
Which one?
Bust Down the Doors and Eat All the Chickens.
Mine too. That was my
Really?
first.
Really?
Yeah. Bradley Sands. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
Who
hates my
loves you
guts,
now?
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hates my fucking guts. Yeah. Like there's a few people who I think would actually try to kill me. I think that's one of them.
Oh well.
Yeah.
At least it'll be creative. Like it'll be some kind of bizarro plot to kill you.
Sure.
Or maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably not. Probably just good old fashioned murder.
Yeah.
Murder suicide. Yeah.
This has been really good in terms of like what I wanted to do this year, talking to more like writers, like current writers, looking at older stuff as well, but also just like sort of doing like in the writer's studio. Like, and so this has been really good. And I think hopefully it's like really kind of helpful for people who want to be writers and stuff like that.
I hope so. I think it's the best time to do it. I mean, I really don't think that the big thing that I see on Substack is the people are still kind of coming to terms with the death of traditional publishing. I figured this out a lot of people figured this out a while back, and we're here now. And so it's not as much of an interesting conversation for me. I do a lot of scrolling and I'm like, yeah.
It doesn't feel like a new development, the death of publishing. Like the borders or whatever closed like 10, 15 years ago. So like the store borders, like, you know, I mean, like books, I don't know. I can't remember books being like popular since Goosebumps.
Basically, yeah.
Like there was like the Da Vinci Code and then the fucking Dragon School ones, and then otherwise, it hasn't been a thing for a long time.
On the subject of borders, what's really interesting is Barnes and Noble has been thriving, and they've made some really smart decisions. So in America, Barnes and Noble is opening up 50 new locations this year, and they're smaller. And they give the curatorial power to their regional managers, which is super smart, right? There's not a list handed down on high of what books you have to carry. Like each manager is responsible for their inventory, which I think is great. But yeah, I mean, like the death of published, like at this point, everybody knows that the shit that gets published is. I wrote a blog recently because Freddie DeBoer, who's a Substack writer, he was really mad that Madeline Cash, she's like the it girl of fiction right now.
Yeah.
By the way, also really good. She was getting all this attention from all these, like the New York Times and the New Yorker and blah, blah, blah. And Freddie was basically upset that that wasn't his attention.
Mm.
Like that was what he was kind of crying about.
Well, he was
But
saying like, the attention that she was getting like had no bearing on the quality of the book. Like, so
sure.
I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's always
did
been
you
the way that
not?
it's been.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's just that he's a person who's benefited from that system up till that point,
yeah.
right? Well, not always. I mean, he got canceled and yada yada yada,
Mm,
but for the most part, he is a person who's very much a beneficiary of that same system that he's now criticizing because it's not him who's getting the
mm,
daddy bucks, right?
mm,
Um, so I was writing about that and I was like, yeah, I mean, I experienced this just by being around writers and publishers. And I tell several stories about like being at conferences and um I'll tell you who the guy. Did you read the blog that I wrote? I don't know if you did or
yeah,
not.
yeah. I did. Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
did.
I haven't read the blog. Sorry.
I'll tell you who the sci-fi author is after we stop rolling.
Okay.
But my point being is this, like, that's not an interesting question anymore, but the positive way of looking at it is that we all have these tools at our disposal. It's like this whole toolkit was dropped at our feet, and it was like, hey, if you can make it, you can actually just do it now, and you don't
Mm,
need somebody to give you the green light anymore. And I think that scares the shit out of a lot of people because they were hoping that they would just be picked. The sorting hat would put them into House Simon and Schuster or House Random House or whatever, and that they would just get that free ride. And it's like, oh no, that's done.
Mm.
Like if you're not a girl or black or whatever, like you're or gay, right?
mm.
But
No,
even gays
gay doesn't work
now,
anymore. No,
it doesn't really, right?
no,
Yeah, I
no.
said it and I was immediately like,
Yeah.
actually, no.
Mm,
Um, like we know that doesn't work anymore. But now there's the toolkit was dropped from heaven, and
mm,
it was like you can do it if you want to
mhm.
do it. And a lot of people are just like, yeah, but I want what about the one where they do everything for me and I don't have
Mm.
to fuck,
But also, they
worry
don't
about it.
actually do everything for you. From what I've
No,
heard, like you have
they
to do a
don't.
lot of the legwork anyway. So,
And
especially
you run
around
into that.
marketing, yeah,
Yeah, and you run into that trap where now, okay, so now you're a person who has submitted to an agent. The agent has approved your book. Maybe this is the 10th or 20th agent that you've queried about this. Now they have your book and they shop it around. They find a publisher. The publisher is not necessarily sure because you're not a celebrity and you're not a woman and you're not black and et cetera, et cetera.
Still
So
got your
they'll
dick.
still get, yeah, exactly. And so they'll be like, okay, we'll give them a $7,000 advance and we'll put like 3,000 into marketing. And you're an unknown factor and you have one book. And so obviously people don't buy it because they don't know who the fuck you are. They're not going to pay $35 for a hardcover for your book. And then the publishing company says, well, I guess it didn't work. So on to the next one.
Yeah, it's
But
like
man,
you as a like author are just like a shit coin or something, and they're like, if we just buy a bunch of them real cheap and we'll just see which ones work, and then like
Mm.
sell off that one.
it's
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's literally that. Yeah, it's
Mm.
literally that. But again, like all this isn't bitching, right? I'm saying like you can just kind of fucking do it.
Yeah.
And there are so many examples of people who do it, and they're not even like the, the Minotaur milking farm or whatever,
Mm.
which kudos to her. I mean, they're regular people who I guarantee both Matts, like you've never heard of these people,
Mm.
but they have audiences of tens of thousands of people who buy their book. And so you're giving up this idea of being a household name like a Stephen King in favor of having a workable audience that will buy whatever you put out. And
Mm.
then it's just about how much you put out.
Yeah, yeah. But
I love it.
not actually giving up a household name because like, I think Madeline Cash is pretty good as well. But even with all of that, she's not going to be a household name. It's just not going to
Mm,
happen because that's not the period that we live in anymore.
Mm.
And so
right.
all of this stuff is what I call, I'm glad you said pick me because I call these people, your Alex Perez's and stuff like that. I call them literary pick me's because
Yeah.
they're like jonesing to get into like a system that's already like sclerotic and just dying. And
Yeah.
they've got this like delusion about like what it's going to be or whatever.
But
And
it'll
they're
be
just
different for me.
exactly, exactly.
When I get there, it'll be
Yeah,
good. But
yeah.
you see the success of people like, I keep bringing up Andrew Edwards because I just read his
Mm,
books, but those books seem to be doing really well. And I'll tell you
mm,
why. It's because they're very well written books that have interesting plots, but also Andrew has a very clear, singular through line of the two books that I've read, at least, of how he views the world
Yeah.
that comes through in the books. It's unique. You can't find that in any other writer. So the next book he puts out, I'm going to read because I kind of know what I'm getting. No matter what stylistic, I mean, he's kind of doing Cormac McCarthy in the first one, and then he's kind of doing James Elroy in the second one. Whatever he chooses to do in the third, I'm gonna read it because of that clarity of purpose that I know I'm gonna get some like gross, gory action, some kind of historical fiction, and also some really compelling orthodox philosophy, like all kind of rolled into one thing, into this really compelling package. And so that's all you got to do. And then you just got to, I guess, get Daryl Cooper to retweet you.
Noted anti-Semite, Daryl Cooper.
Yeah, right. But no, it's the best. It's the best time to be an author like us. Like you don't have to consider. Like, please stop writing think pieces about how trad publishing is die. It's been dead for
Yeah.
a long
But
time.
even I'm writing a thing on this, so I'm gathering material for it on the literary pygmies, and even the people who are like on Substack and who are like, let's do our own thing, they're still plagued by this pygmyism, because what they think is they think that this thing that they're making, like on Substack or whatever, is going to be like this jumping off point to, getting in, like, and you can just tell, like, you can just tell
Yeah.
that that's the direction that they want to go. It's like, you're making money on Substack. Like, why are you still chasing this thing? Like, it's
I'll
very
never get it.
interesting.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'll never get it. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because that to me is just the most bizarre that when you see people who have successfully sent a clear signal out and who have talent, but they want to be in the like it's the Eric Andre let me in meme
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah. And Freddie's kind of like this. Like, I really don't agree with his politics or anything like that. I do think he's a talented writer, though, and he's got an audience on Substack. He's making
Of
bank on
70,000 people.
and I'm just like, why are you whinging about like
Yeah.
some bitch who's got a book deal? Like,
Yeah.
you're fine.
I like when he gets like really manic with his writing and he's doing
Yeah,
a bunch of
yeah.
run-on sentences.
Yeah.
It's very compelling. When it's one of his kind of, autistic, focus points, his big things like public schools and like education. When he's
Which he's
really
right
in it-
about, by the way.
Yeah, he
His
is. 100%.
idea that school isn't for everyone is totally on point. And I like that
is.
he's the only left-wing person who says that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, my kid is not going to public. Fuck no, no way, no way. I had this discussion with my wife the other night. We were like we had never talked about it, but I brought it up, and it was one of those things where it was like, oh, you think that too? Okay, great, perfect. Yeah, we're not doing that. Sending him to school with a bunch of animals? No, no way. But yeah, man, it's there's a positive way to look at all this, and it's just I think it's really cool. When I look out at the landscape and I see you guys, I see Glenn, I see Brad, I see Andrew, me, Kelby, David, all the Broken River guys, like all these people who are just kind of steadily creating a body of work, both in podcasts, and I think podcasts are awesome, and podcasts should not be a dirty word. Like, it's cool. Girlfriends hate it. Whatever. Dudes rock. Or boyfriends in your case.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I see all this and I see like this actual without like you never see Glenn go and tweet like we need to create a thriving literary community.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like seeing that? You'd be like, what happened, dude? Are you okay?
Yeah,
He just
exactly.
does it
Yeah.
because he's a bro who likes reading. And we're all just bros who like read, and it's beautiful and it's happening organically and without this idea that we're moving towards something other than what this actually is, just at scale.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's great. It's exciting. I would also put like just from a writer's point of view, I really love what Ian Ryan's doing as well, because he is trad pub, but he also self-publishes stuff. Like he's just got a mixed model.
Yes.
That's a really kind of cool way to go about it. You know, if you've got the, because I think he gets like published here with his Australian publisher, might like publish stuff internationally as well under his own name or something,
Right.
his own brand, I guess.
I think that's how he does it.
You can do both.
Yeah.
You can do both.
Yeah, you can do both. You can do whatever works for you, you
Yeah.
know? Well, Ian is actually, I wish that he would write more about stuff like this because he's wickedly smart. Like,
Oh, he's good on this shit. I've had so many like Instagram messages, like long like paragraphs about all this shit. He's really smart about it. Yeah.
Yeah. He's very intelligent, and he wrote a blog recently, today, in fact, about like Jared Kobeck and how Jared Kobeck is just that's kind of his boyfriend, right? Like it's just like he's just smarter than everybody else, and I'm like, motherfucker, you're smarter than everybody else too. Yeah. But he's got just a really I love when I meet people like Ian or you guys or whoever who's just very clear-headed about things, right? Like he's very practical about everything. He would go with Trad Pub in Australia. It probably makes sense. I mean, if they were to put out your book and you'd be in bookstores all over Australia, but you retain your rights to foreign markets, sure. I mean, why not? Right? If it's in service of pushing your thing out there, then it totally makes sense. The problem with the US market is that's not what that is at all. Right. They clamp down on that shit and they're like, you're going to put out we'll put this out in 2 years. And then once it doesn't do anything, oh, by the way, you're also not allowed to do anything else. You have no rights to your audiobook or Kindle or anything like it. Doesn't make sense. But I like that kind of it comes back, and I hope it's not like a fetishization of like the blue collar working class, but it just feels that way, right? Like there's a mindset of a person who has had to work their whole life for things, applying that to the writing world. Kelby's a good example of this. Kelby's practical. But he
was he practical when he shot his friend in the knee with the Desert Eagle? I don't know.
But there's just this mindset of like, yeah, this is we've just been kind of like circling this whole thing, but I think it's such an important point is that like, yeah, but you're in a service industry that you're doing something for customers and you have to approach it the same way you would if you were starting a power washing company or a fence company or whatever. You're doing something for customers. You should try to get really good at that thing. Like nobody puts up a fence and is like, well, this is my self-expression of a fence.
That's a good character to put in a novel, actually. Like someone who's like that. Yeah.
There's no posts. And you're like, yeah, I wasn't feeling posts this time.
Yeah.
You just got to forget everything you know about what a fence should be.
It's a deconstructed fence. Yeah.
So I can see everything. And you're like, yeah, isn't that great? Like, there's still pickets every once in a while, but it's in a Fibonacci sequence.
Yeah, and the pickets are all different heights and everything. Yeah. But anyway, this was a great discussion. And yeah, you should go and buy Berserker Club. Just on Amazon, or where are we direct selling this one? What's going on?
I'm direct selling it, and I put it this way. I have the direct selling link where you can buy it. There's a few things though. It's more expensive and it's going to take longer to get there. Especially if you live in Australia, that shit's going to be expensive because y'all motherfuckers, I don't know what's going on, but like shit is expensive.
I don't know either. Oh my God. I sold a book, like a really kind of rare book, it's quite big, that I sort of didn't want anymore because it's cluttering up my space. And I sold it for, a pretty penny. So it was good in that regard. But the postage, I just put like because I hadn't used eBay in years, right? So I thought, oh yeah, usually like the flat rate was like $30 or something like that for anywhere in the world. And it was like had to go to like Taiwan. And it was fucking $80 to send this book there.
I encountered this.
$80.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because the cover artist for Berserker Club, Tony Tran, is Australian, and
He's
so
a
I wanted to
great
get
illustrator too. Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic, and I had to get him a copy because he did the cover,
Hmm.
and I was like, Tony, bro, can I just buy you one from Amazon and just have it shipped?
Probably,
So
probably cheaper to get a courier to fly over to give it to him or something.
Yeah.
no shit, dude, no shit, for real.
Yeah.
But so basically, if you buy it direct, I get more money, which I like. The copies from Book Vault are objectively better. Like the cover colors pop more, the interior is nicer. It's a better product, but it's more expensive and you're gonna wait to get it. Just being realistic. If you
Even
just
in
want
the
the book
US,
though,
or
even in the US, it still
Okay.
takes about 10 days from
Okay.
when you order it to get it to you. If you want it tomorrow, just get it on Amazon. It's fine. I mean, it's like I put the two books together because I was like, are they different? And when I saw it, I was like, yeah,
Mm.
it's different.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a pulp book.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
we'll put both links in, and then people
Yeah.
can just decide which one they want to purchase.
for sure. For sure. Thanks for having me on, dudes.
Yeah, well, thanks.
It's always fun.
Yeah, thanks again for coming on and unpacking all of this stuff. It's great. In the writer's studio on the Getting the podcast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love getting to be a guest because when I'm doing Agitator, I have to be like, I want to ramble, but I'm talking to a person who I invited on, and so
And you feel
have to,
rude,
like,
but when you're on
not
someone
do that.
else's, you can ramble as much
I'm
as
like,
you want.
no, you
Yeah.
invited me, motherfucker, so I'm gonna talk.
All right. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm gonna pause the recording, go and piss, and then I want to know who the writer was.
Sounds good. I'll do the same.
Well, I've been thinking about murder, suicide, you and me. You'll be the murderer and I'll be the suicide, you and me. Well, I've been thinking about a murder, suicide pact between you and me. I'd be so honored if you take part, blow our heads off or kill me. Murder, 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 suicide. 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 Well, I've been thinking about a murder, suicide pact between you and me. I'd be so honored if you take part. I may wake you up to see if you agree. Well, I've been thinking about murder, suicide, be you and me. You'll be the murderer and I'll be the suicide. Oh, how happy we can be. Murder, murder.